there, and welcome to the Treehouse Knits podcast. My name is Rachel, and you can find me on treehouseknits.com and on all the social medias as Treehouse Knits. That would be on Instagram and on Ravelry. On Ravelry, I've recently started a little group for our podcast. You can find it if you go under the forums section. It's Treehouse Knits Podcast. And on there, I will put, I don't want to call them show notes because they're just show information that will help you kind of jog your memory what we talked about, or if there was something interesting that I mentioned and you forgot the name of something, it should be on there. And I've also created a welcome thread. I would love to know a little bit about who you are and where you're from. I've created a Google map and I'm putting little markers on where everyone in our group is from. So check out that map too, that's in the group. So today I thought we would talk a little bit about what I've got here on the mannequins and what I'm wearing. We'll go through some of my works in progress. I'll show you some finished objects and then talk a little bit about some new local yarn stores that new to me that I went to and what I bought there. So if you have any questions about the podcast, feel free to just ask the questions in the comments below, and why don't we just get started? So, what's on Elsie over here? I'm going to call this mannequin Elsie. Elsie was my grandmother's name, and she definitely was an inspiration for me to do a lot of different crafts. So on Elsie today, this is the Willow cowl. If you're not familiar with the Willow cowl, it's a neat little cowl. It was really popular a couple years ago. And what it basically is knit in the round. It's got picot, folded over picot edges, and then it's just got a cool lace pattern with stockinette. So the lace pattern gives you a little interest and fun, and then just when you're getting tired of doing the lace pattern and you don't want to really think hard, you get stockinette sections. This was done out of Frolicking Feet transitions by the company called Done Roving, and it was such a fun, quick knit. The other item, I'm going to call this mannequin Emma, because Emma was my great-grandmother and she wore a lot of hats. Maybe not hats like this, but she wore a lot of hats. Everybody probably knows this hat by now, but if you don't, it's called the Baa-ble hat. It was really popular last year because it was the official hat for Shetland Wool Week, I believe. Oh my gosh, I'll put it down below if I'm wrong. But what a fun knit, easy color work pattern. I used just some remnants from my own stash. So this down here was a hand-spun cordell that my mother-in-law graciously spun for me, and I love that it looks like the sheep are in flowers, in a field of flowers. And then just used some brown and some white cream color that I had in my stash, and then the blue was a dyeing that just kind of went bad, and I just threw it in the blue and ended up with this pretty sky blue. And then I used all the colors in the pom-pom on top. But that was a really fun knit. I highly recommend it, the Baa-ble hat. And what am I wearing? Well, I am wearing a cardigan that I created on my own through the Custom Fit program. I always assume everybody knows about Custom Fit, but I'm surprised that a lot of people don't know about it. Custom Fit is an incredible online site, and Amy Herzog is the creator of this amazing program. What you do is you can go in the site, pick a sweater or any kind of garment that you want to create. All of them are sweaters or vests, I believe. You pick a yarn that you want to knit with and make a swatch, and you go online, you put in the gauge that you got with your yarn, you combine it with the pattern that she has on her program, as well as the measurements that you have taken of yourself, and out pops a pattern that's custom made just for you and for your size. I used, the yarn that I used was the Swan's Island Organic Washable Sport, and then just for fun I put in a FRABJOUS Fibers gradient pack that I got in sport weight. It's a great cardigan. I absolutely love wearing it, And of course, it fits me just the way that I want it to fit. So check out that site if you can, or one of Amy Herzog's books. Again, it's called Custom Fit. So, what have I been working on this week? Well, I did finish my socks. These are some shorties that I made with Nomadic Yarns in Sock Talk. I absolutely love this yarn. Absolutely love this yarn. This is a sport weight yarn, and I just love the thickness. It's not too thick, not too thin. I knit these 2 at a time, toe up with an afterthought heel. Whenever I have striping, I love to do an afterthought heel because I can pop it in. It makes this cool circular kind of heel with the stripes, and it doesn't mess up my stripes on the top of my foot. I used about 2.5 inches of 2x2 ribbing. That is my favorite ribbing. I've tried so many different ribbings, and this one is just stretchy enough, but it keeps the sock up on the leg. I did 1x1. I've tried all kinds of ribbing, and I have found that this is the sock pattern for me. Absolutely love it. I just did a standard wedge toe when I did the toe up. Actually, this wasn't standard. I did a wedge toe where it's a quickly increasing kind of toe in the beginning, so it creates a little bit more of a rounded edge, and I really do like that. Yeah, so Nomadic Yarns, fabulous colors. I've talked about them before on this podcast. Check them out if you haven't. I also finished these socks. This was my finish pair from my friend that I swapped with in Finland. With, if you want all the information, by the way, of anything on here, I keep my Ravelry page really up to date. So if you want the details about needle sizes, exact sock colorways, check that out. So just wanted to show that I finished these. And then the other pair that I just finished, they're still a little damp. Again, did a toe up, 2 at a time, afterthought heel. This is a sock that I got from Legacy Fiber Artz, and it is the, I'm forgetting the name. That's why I'm going to pull it out of here, I think. Maybe not. Okay, well, we can talk about the green. The green is this tuku wool, which I also got from my friend in Finland. It's a fingering weight. And if I could just find the tag for the Legacy Artz. Anyways, it's the Sanderson sisters sock. I can't think of her name. Oh my gosh, I've never seen the movie Hocus Pocus. So this is why I do not know the name, but look at the color. Just gorgeous. And I love that there's absolutely no pooling. I'm not a big pooling fan. I don't know if you guys are pooling fans. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I just don't mind that it's pooling at all. I don't like pooling, but that's fine if you do. I don't, and just the way she distributed the color was perfect. And there is a little, this is my first sparkle sock. I don't think you can tell the sparkle. Oh, there's a little sparkle you can see. But again, same type of sock construction that I've been doing. I kept it in my sock bag. There's the Legacy Artz, Legacy Fiber Artz pin. This is a sock bag that I've been I create my own bags that I like, just the perfect size for socks. I wanted something that was harvesty, Halloweeny, so I used this fun little pumpkin gourd fabric on the outside and this cute flower pattern on the inside. And I got my little progress keeper, my little pumpkin. So that was a lot of fun. That project is done. Now, works in progress. Here she comes. I have a one-legged sheep. I just didn't feel like putting more legs on, so I stopped right here, but I will be putting more legs on a face on my sheep. This is Sheep, exclamation point, by Queen Bee herself, Susan B. Anderson. Again, I took that class a few weeks ago at the Knit Circus retreat and just working on my sheep. And she will join my other sheep. You can't see her right now, but super fun knit. Check it out, Susan B. Anderson sheep. And hopefully I'll have 4 legs on her. Okay, so I had a little bit of start-itis this week. I just really wanted to try out some new things and went ahead and bought the new Woolens book by Jared Flood. This is a book of knitted accessories, and Jared Flood, as you probably know, is the owner and creator of Brooklyn Tweed. So all the patterns in here are knit with Brooklyn Tweed. This is an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous book. It's really a book that everything you see in here can be knit for a woman or a man. I really appreciate that. And they're also classics. There's nothing too trendy in here. It's items that you will knit once, and you will, if you care for it well, you'll have it the rest of your life and it'll look great. I right away was drawn to a hat pattern and a cowl pattern. This is the hat that I was drawn to. Let's see if I can see it there. I love the cables, and it almost looks like it's beaded, but it's not. So I went ahead and started that. It's called the Far Hills Hat. And I happen to have 2 skeins of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in my stash. I am knitting this on my Addy needles. I think it's a size 8. I did the brim in a size 6 and then the hat in an 8. The actual pattern calls for just knitting, doing a cast on, the tubular cast on, and just knitting for a couple of inches, but Michigan winters get cold and I really like double thickness, so I just went ahead and did a 2x2 rib for almost maybe 5 inches, and then I folded it over and tacked it under, and then I started with the pattern, the chart pattern. It's a repeatable motif, so I've just separated each motif with stitch markers, and it's just it might look intimidating at first to read a chart, but again, this chart, it's repeatable, so, and if you strategically place your stitch markers in between each motif, you can correct mistakes quickly as they happen, which they do. But super, super fun. This is going to be a super warm hat, and with all shelter, I've knit a shelter hat before. In the blocking is when the magic happens with this yarn. I believe it's a Columbia Targhee mix, and Brooklyn Tweed is woolen spun. So what woolen spun means is that before it is spun, instead of combing it straight out and making straight hair and a worsted spun yarn, the fibers are fluffed around. It's similar to when you brush your hair and it's nice and smooth and then you can style it versus teasing your hair. I feel like the teasing is kind of what woolen spun is like, and it creates this really light, fluffy, yet warm wool because the air inside is captured, and it just creates a warmth for you. So I'm really excited. I do love this yarn. I know a lot of people aren't a huge fan of it because they think that it breaks easily, and it is. You have to take care. The first time I knit a hat with Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, I didn't have any problem when I was knitting the hat, but when I was sewing in the ends, I tugged a little too hard and it broke right there, you know, and it was, whoa, you know, a little frustrating. I had to be careful, but just be careful. It's going to create a strong, strong garment in the end. And I am storing this in another Treehouse Knits bag that I made. There's my little tag. Treehouse Knits. Little trees, lined it with some fun green. So that is my Far Hills hat in the new Woolens book by Jared Flood. All right, the next project that I casted on this week, very exciting. I have it in my Hopkins Sewing Studio bag. If you haven't heard of this particular Etsy shop, check them out, check her out, I should say. I worked with Hopkins Sewing to create this bag. I saw this fabric on an Instagram post that she had, and I lived in Chicago for almost 10 years before I got married. And this is all Chicago. This is the Chicago L map, and then these are all Chicago landmarks, and then she put the L in the lining. I absolutely love this bag. Awesome tag. And I also, maybe it's back here somewhere. Oh, yeah. I got from her cute little needle minder kind of thing out of the same fabric. But what I have cast on, I am so excited about this project. This is called Quicksand by Heidi Kirrmaeier. I hope I'm saying her name right. Sorry for the bad printout. It's not a striped sweater. My red must not be doing so well, but it's just a basic sweater. But what is going to make this sweater incredible is the yarn. This past week I went to a new to me yarn shop. Again, I used to be a knitting teacher and I worked at a local yarn store that just recently closed, which was very sad. So I'm kind of expanding my search for different yarn stores in the area. Had heard about this yarn store in Holland, and the store is called GarenHuis. I hope I'm saying that right. I think in Dutch it means yarn store. But I saw on their Instagram feed that they carry Woolfolk. And I have had my eye on Woolfolk ever since I heard the podcast, the Woolfolk podcast, where they interviewed the developer of Woolfolk. I can't think of her name. I will put it down below or in the show notes. This is made with, I believe, Argentinian merino. And if you can see, and it's all fair trade yarn, which I love. And you can see that rather than it being twisted, it is braided. And what this does is creates this extremely soft, I mean, it is cashmere soft. I think it's softer than cashmere, at least the cashmere I've used. And it's so light, but it's going to be so nice and warm but breathable. So I bought a bunch of skeins at the GarenHuis. I hope I'm saying that right. Next time I go, you're going to have to say it for me. But I met a wonderful staff member, Martha, and she right away showed my friend and I where, told us a little bit about Woolfolk, and then helped us kind of find how many skeins we needed. And my friend Kate and I are going to be doing Quicksand together. Kate picked a little lighter gray than I did. But oh my gosh, if you have the chance to get your hands on Woolfolk, this is called FAR, F-A-R, you must. It is just incredible. And the colors, the way that the wool takes the color is just gorgeous as well. So I went ahead and started my sweater. The sweater called for a size 9 needle. The pattern says to use a size 6 to 8, and I ended up on a 10. What I think is neat about this yarn is that it looked great on a 9, it looked great on a 10, and it looked great on an 11. Because the way that it is chain plied, it does really well when you knit tighter, and it does really well when you knit with a bigger needle because it bulks out. So when I held up my swatch with the 3 different needle sizes, I couldn't really see through any of the sizes, which was kind of neat and kind of interesting. But the way this sweater is created is top down, and you kind of with increases make a yoke, separate for the sleeves, knit all the way down, knit the sleeves. Very basic pattern, but that's what I wanted for this yarn. I just wanted the yarn to speak for itself, and it is, and I'm so, so excited about it. We had a great visit to the yarn store in Holland. It's a great store. So if you live in the Michigan area or the Midwest and you find yourself driving through Holland, maybe on your way up north, you have to stop by. Great needle selection, beautiful yarns, wonderful area to sit in the back on couches and just knit with people. And I know they have a whole slate of classes that are going to be happening this fall. So check them out. GarenHuis, they're right in downtown Holland. And I will insert a little video of the store here and maybe some pictures as well. while I was at the store, I bought a few other things. I have had my eye on this book for a long time, the Knitting All Around Stitch Dictionary. I like it for a few reasons. One, it's really comprehensive with 150 new stitch patterns for top down, bottom up, back and forth, and in the round. So it helps, it explains how to do it in all those different constructions, as well as I just absolutely love how they've knit up all the samples in different colors and looks like different weights. So I really look forward to using this stitch dictionary. I also love that it's spiral, so it lays flat. But I really look forward to using this stitch dictionary in some of my future designs. They also had this gauge ruler that Ann Budd has created, and I've wanted to see it in person and try it out. And for those of you who have a hard time figuring out gauge with just a regular ruler, if you can see, I wonder if I put, if you can see, all you do is you lay this clear plastic on top of your knitted gauge swatch, and you just keep trying all the different sizes until the white lines line up with your stockinette knits, and then it tells you what your gauge is per inch. So I thought that was a really cool tool. I also finally got my hands on, I don't think I really need this tool, but I'm hoping maybe it turns into a tool that I didn't know I needed, but I did. This is the sock ruler. Many of you have probably already seen this as well. I got the top of the toe up version so that I can just stick it in the toe, and it's got, you know, different sizes. It'll tell me easily how many inches I've knit. I think where I'll use this the most is I'm going to take a Sharpie and write on here my family members' foot sizes so that I'll have easy access to that when I'm knitting them socks. So that's the sock ruler. And they had this, I couldn't pass this one up. This was just a to-do list. Wake up, knit, and it gives you some boxes of, you know, your day work. Then you go back to knit and go to bed. Thought that was really cute. Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? There's one other thing. You know, I talk about how my mannequins are named Emma and Elsie, and I have ancestors who were very crafty women and men. In fact, you can see in here these tin pictures right here. Those are pounded tin pictures of birds that my grandfather did. I just have a lot of crafty people in my heritage, and so I've inherited a lot of crafty little tools and things in old tin boxes that cookies would be sold in and whatnot. I inherited a lot of this stuff, and one thing that was in a sewing box and I saw was this old piece of leather with a big magnet on it. And I, you know, I've seen it before, and it's probably something that my ancestor used for sewing, and the needles would go on here. And it's got the initials of my grandmother inside the band, but it reminds me of the Knitter's Keep that CocoKnits has created. CocoKnits, it's Julie Weisberger, I think her name is. If I've got that wrong, I'll put it down below. But she's created a bunch of different tools for knitters. I've heard her speak before, and she says, you know, a lot of other hobbies, especially hobbies that maybe are more male dominated, have tools that when you're doing crafts such as woodworking or something like that, you spend a lot of money on tools because you know that the right tools make your job a lot easier, and it's important to have quality tools. So Julie Weisberger and CocoKnits is creating a line of really attractive, well-crafted tools, and that stitch minder is one of them. Well, this is the, you know, maybe the original stitch minder. And so I went ahead and I just bought some of her colored metal stitch markers, and they work really well on this old-fashioned band. So it will be really neat to use something that my ancestors used in a more modern way. I just wanted to share that with you. I'm sure some of you have items that you've inherited from crafty ancestors, and if there are any of you out there that have, I'd love to hear about what you have acquired, and maybe in the comments below just share with us you know, the story of those items. So I think that's it for today. One thing I wanted to just mention is a segment that I'm looking forward to doing in the future, perhaps starting with the next podcast. I'm really getting interested in learning more about local wools to me, especially different breeds of sheep. And I've realized that I don't know a lot of different breeds of sheep and what their qualities are, and I would like to start that learning journey. So I have purchased, let's see if I can reach this, the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, and my goal is to get to know various shepherds in Michigan and perhaps in some states around me within a day's drive, I guess, that are maintaining flocks of different breeds of sheep, breeds that are on the list that they're starting to become lower in becoming more rare breeds, as well as sheep breeds that are really common. And I thought there'd be some of you that might want to go on that journey with me. So I thought that maybe the next podcast I would start with that segment. We would just briefly talk about a specific breed, and hopefully I will find the breed and have a sample for you for us to share in the podcast from a farm that is local to me. So if you happen to be a shepherd close to Michigan area and you would like to be highlighted on my new segment, feel free to get in touch with me. Again, my website is thknits.com, and on there you will find contact information, or you can also private message me on Instagram or on Ravelry as well. So let me know if you think that would be a good segment to do. I plan on doing it anyway, but hopefully you guys will get something out of it as well. Because I think that as a yarn consumer, I find it fascinating to understand how yarn is actually made from grass to the yarn that we use and spin. They're the fiber we spin into yarn and put into a sweater, and I just would like to get a little bit more knowledge on that. Our ancestors had to know how to do that to survive. For us, it's just it might just be a fun hobby, but I'd like to understand a little bit more where my yarn comes from, and then be a little bit more selective in my purchases to support those people who are working so hard every day to keep a flock of sheep healthy and strong and ready to be shorn? I don't even see the terminology, I don't even know. But I just think it would be an important thing for us as consumers of yarn to know the work that goes into it, and to meet and to touch and feel and see some of those fibers. So I look forward to that segment starting in the near future. That is all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, could you please just hit the thumbs up button below. Again, leave any comments below on the episode. Let us know if you have any things that you've inherited, any tools and how you've used them. That would be great. You can leave that in the comment section. And please do join us on our Ravelry group page, Treehouse Knits Podcast. We're a small but growing group, and it's been fun to put on our podcast map where you all are from. So with that, I bid you a fond adieu, and we will see you on the next Treehouse Knits. Thank you.